Welcome to County Connection. My name is Julie Suter. I'm your host, and we have a jam-packed agenda today to talk about all kinds of programs and services offered by Summit County. And we are going to kick it off today with a section dedicated to landlord and tenant rights. And we have some folks here from Summit Housing Authority, Jennifer Kermode, who heads up the Summit Combined Housing Authority.
Yes.
And then a couple of guests from Colorado Legal Services, Ron Carlson and Patricia Craig. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. This is great.
Good. So Jennifer, why don't you start off by just giving us a little bit of background on the Housing Authority, the services it offers in general, and then also landlord-tenant issues in particular.
Okay. Well, the Housing Authority has several different programs that we bring to the community, dealing mostly in education and then in some loan services and some real estate services. And so mostly we work with people that are looking at deed restricted purchases, but one of the things that we've started getting into is landlord-tenant education. And one of the reasons, Julie, is we have a very tight rental market here in Summit County. We have more people that need to rent that can afford lower rents than we have rentals available. So what we run into is a lot of overcrowding issues and a lot of landlord-tenant problems. And we found over the last couple of years that people really don't know where to go. We do have some resources out there for them, such as Colorado Legal Services, but people don't necessarily know that they're out there. So the Housing Authority has started a free class where we bring in attorneys and talk about various issues that landlords and tenants deal with. So we want to get more information out to the public so that they know that this is out there.
Okay, great. And then based on the calls that you receive, the inquiries that you get, and also just kind of what you know and you're seeing out there, what would you say are some of the top problems or issues that kind of create conflict in those landlord-tenant relationships?
There are three big ones that we hear about. One is habitability, so the condition of the property, either as a tenant living there or as a landlord and a tenant leaves. The second one is the security deposits. When they do leave, do they get them back? And are the landlords following what the laws say about that? And then the third one is evictions. And evictions seem to be a pretty hot topic between landlords and tenants. And there's a lot of legal issues that go along with evictions. So
right.
That's what we want to focus on today.
Yeah, okay. So then looking specifically at evictions, what are some of the things that a tenant would need to know in terms of the tenant's rights and responsibilities?
If I could chime in here, I think first thing everyone needs to understand the procedures that are involved. Hopefully you don't get to the legal procedures and that people communicate and try to work things out. I would say the number one thing is that everyone needs to keep their copy of their lease. It's always kind of surprising the number of people who call for a lawyer and they have no idea what their obligations are because they don't have a copy of their lease. It is extremely important. The law is based on paper. The law is based on the written word. So unless we have that, we start a space down from reality, and we need to find that out first. In terms of if there's going to be an eviction, there is required to be what's called a 3-day notice first that tells the tenant that an eviction is contemplated and the reasons for the eviction, whether it's non-payment, having an illegal dog, having illegal drugs, whatever the reason is supposed to be stated in that notice. That notice does not have to be served on the person directly. It can be posted. The law uses the phrase tacked, because in the old days we used to take tacks and thumbtack it to the front door. But it can be taped, tacked onto the front door, and that is sufficient notice on the 3-day notice.
Okay. So what are some tips that you have for both tenants and landlords, some proactive steps that either side can take to avoid getting to this point?
Well, I think communication. Pat, you get a lot of complaints. I think that what we see mostly aside from people's inability to pay, is just plain miscommunication about whatever issue's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Whether
Not
it's
trying to work it out.
Yeah. There is the natural human tendency when confronted with a problem to try and ignore it. And people justify with all kinds of, well, I can't take off of work, I don't have time, I forgot to bring the number. In landlord-tenant proceedings, things can move very quickly. Mm-hmm. So if an issue comes up, it's important to address it quickly.
I agree.
I think for our clients, and Colorado Legal Services serves people who are low income. It's very important, like Ron said, to not wait to deal with anything, especially because if a person ends up with an eviction on their record, it's going to be almost impossible to get any subsidized housing after that.
Oh, okay.
So they will be off the list for Section 8 or any kind of housing help if that eviction gets on their record. So if they can get to us and we can try to, with an attorney, negotiate with the landlord some resolution, whether it's working out payment of the rent in stages or whether it's working out when they leave and giving them a little more time, that's better than risking having an eviction on their record, because that's really harmful.
Right, and that's good to know, because I think sometimes if you're in the thick of one of these situations or disputes, and it can be emotional and frustrating and confusing, and you know, it's important not to throw your hands up and walk away, or
please come talk to us.
Right.
We have an awful lot of first-time tenants in Summit County. So it's important for them to know that if they do get an eviction, it is a big deal long-term, and to pay attention to that. And so it's great that Colorado Legal Services is here, but they need to know up front when they sign that lease agreement that they've got responsibilities that last a long time.
And people should be aware that judgments for eviction can be picked up by credit reporting agencies and affect a credit rating.
Okay.
So no one should have, well, I don't have to worry about it, it's just the local court. Their credit agencies pay people to monitor court judgments, and that judgment can show up on a credit report and affect your ability later on to get credit cards to purchase an auto with an auto loan.
Get a job.
And all kinds of impacts.
Right. So any other tips about maybe on the front end when you're just beginning to enter into a lease agreement?
Read the lease.
Read the lease.
If you don't understand it and you're low income, come to us and we can have someone explain that.
All right. Anything else you guys would like to add in terms of tips, or just good practices, or anything else about rights and responsibilities?
I think a good practice, we've been talking about it, is educating yourself about what the rights are in Colorado, and what your rights are either as a tenant or a landlord. And there are places to get that information online, coloradolegalservices.org. The summithousing.us has the resource page on our website. And then there's another, coloradohousingconnects.org. And that website has a lot of information that is kind of like renting for dummies. So that's really, really easy for people to see and to get access to. But
as far as educational opportunities go, to where people can learn more about their rights and responsibilities in these relationships, there is a class coming up in September, right, Jennifer?
yes, there's a class on September 19th, I believe it is. It's on our website, but it's September 19th, and it'll be at the Buffalo Mountain Room at the County Commons from noon till 1:30, and it is about marijuana and know your rights, whether you're the landlord or the tenant. So, and that will be the last one in our series this year that we have planned, but we'll start again next year with another whole landlord-tenant series.
Excellent. And these are free?
They are free, and we'll even give you lunch. So
all right.
It's a heck of a deal.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, and then lastly, can you tell folks at home the best way to get in touch with you guys to get their questions answered or find out about educational resources?
To get in touch with Colorado Legal Services, they can call 800-521-6968.
Great.
And the Summit Housing Authority is summithousing.us, or they can call me directly, 970-423-7043.
All right, Jennifer, Ron, Patricia, thanks so much. These are some great tips and some great information.
Thanks for having us, Julie.
All
We
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, stick with us. We are going to be talking about autumn wildlife interactions with Colorado Parks and Wildlife and what you can do to keep yourself safe and protect wildlife that surrounds us here in Summit County. Stay with us.